Hey there, highlighters. Erin King here, and today I am super excited to bring you one of my favorite people, a gal that I have known from the interwebs for a couple of years now. We first met at a huge convention. We stayed friends on Clubhouse, Instagram, Facebook, all the things, and now we are teaming up to do a live event in Nashville in the fall, which is going to be amazing. This gal is the real deal. Love her content, love her tribe, and you, my highlighters, are going to love her too. Kimberly Olson, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited.
Oh my gosh, I am too. Well, our story is just so fun. I mean, we've been chasing each other all over the internet, all over social media, and we're finally going to meet in real life after
Yes.
liking each other
Years.
virtually for years. So I'm so excited and cannot wait to bring the Boss It Up Babe book to my highlighters, which is this complete guide to crushing your personal brand, owning your online space, and attracting your ideal avatar. Yes, please to all the things. But before we dive in, why this book, Kimberly? Why this book for you? What made you have to spill it out onto the page and put it out into the world?
Yeah, for sure. Well, when I first got onto social, I was being taught to cold message and spam. I come from the network marketing direct sales space and transitioned into coaching and course creation.
Yeah.
And I just didn't feel aligned with it, but I didn't know what to do. And so once I realized like, okay, I can actually make this work around my full-time job and my babies and all the things, I thought this is the ticket to freedom, but I had no idea how to do it. So I spent obviously a lot of time, money, investing to figure it out. And I had so many people asking me, how did you do it? Of course, I have coaching programs and things like that, but I wanted something accessible. I wanted something that I wish I would have had to teach people how anyone, no matter what you're doing, there is value to building a personal brand online. Even if you have a brick and mortar or you just want to like engineer that celebrity, I truly believe this is a book that everyone needs.
Well, I agree. Could not agree more. We're going to link to all of it in the show notes.
Thank you.
Why the goal digger from a personal branding standpoint? Why was that the message that anchored for you and you were like, this is where I'm going to build my rock? Like, tell me more.
Yes, totally. Well, I've always been known as somebody who is very achievement oriented. But what I truly feel is, I'm 42 now and I've had different seasons of my life. And I really believe that we're thriving, whether it's a relationship, your parenting, even your teaching your kiddos. But I truly believe that goals allow us to grow. And if we have something we're reaching towards, I'm someone who struggled with alcohol addiction. I struggled with depression, all these things that I've luckily overcome. But when you're in that place, it's typically because for some reason you aren't aligned with what is lighting that fire in you. So a goal digger, where that came from, is we set goals and we crush them and we unapologetically go after those dreams, those goals. We protect them. We are bigger than our excuses, the overwhelm, all the things in the day to day. And I feel like that lights me up. And if I can light that fire in someone else, then, I'm passing the baton, and then we really can make a change in the world. I know it's like pie in the sky, but I really believe it.
Well, it sounds pie in the sky, but when you look at what you've built, I mean, you have such an engaged following. You show up very authentically. You have your personal brand has so many branches to it. I mean, you have like your podcast and your courses and your books and your events, but you also have this you always seem pretty chill on the surface. So my question would be, if you're someone that is building the personal brand, building the team, doing all the contenting, like has 100 million things plus the kiddos going on, what is your secret to kind of having this pretty mellow, sort of chill vibe where, I mean, you never seem like stressed out to me when I talk to you. So like, what is that secret for you? Like, are you just an amazing time manager? Is it your faith? Like, is it because you just like love it so much? Like, what is your secret?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of everything you just said. Yeah.
Okay.
If you talk to my staff, I am not like chill, like, hey, dudes, like, what are we going to do? I'm like, oh, I just came up with this idea. And they're like, okay, can we put that in like Q5? Like, not now. So I am very much like, let's go. But I truly believe I just like did my first 3-day virtual, and it was new. I hadn't done it. We did breakout rooms with Zoom, like all this stuff. And I literally pray. And I'm just like, God, please fill in the gaps, because I'm just going to serve these women. I'm going to show up. I'm going to go all in, and I'm not going to leave anything on the table. And I just do it. And I really think that if you get aligned with like who you are and your passion comes through, I think it can come across to others like very well received, because it's refreshing. And they're like, yes, like speak the truth, man, preach it. Yeah. So no, I'm definitely not like calm, chill, mellow. I'm more just really excited all the time. But I also need time to, recharge my batteries and, read or journal or do those kind of things too. But yeah, I think I'm just like excited most of the time. for
I
sure.
love it. I love it. Well, so let's talk a little bit about goal setting and why we do it and why it can be so challenging. I mean, I had a conversation with my very best friends turned 40 yesterday, and I took her out to lunch, and we've been friends for 15 years, my soul sister, and she's right now going through a season of major reinvention. And it's funny because whether it's clients or online friends or my girlfriends, I feel like everyone I'm talking to right now is in this really big season of who are we on the other side of what just went down the last 2 years. Not to
Totally.
mention current news, which as of time of recording, there's a lot happening in the world as usual. But I think a lot of us are trying to figure this out. And so I was talking to her at lunch and she's like, this is terrible, but I feel like sometimes it's so easy for me to point out what I don't like, what I don't want, what I'm
Mm.
allergic to, what repels me. But when it comes to actually deciding what kind of business do I want to start? Where do I want to live? Do I want to have another child in my family? Like it makes me trying to understand like where I want to go and who I want to be. I just get this analysis paralysis that can feel so heavy that it gets me stuck, even though what's getting me stuck has an intention of igniting momentum, right? So it's kind of this like cycle that she's going through. As I heard her talk about it, I'm like, God, if I have one more person say this to me, this is so whatever's happening in the world right now, everyone is just really trying to figure out who is this new version of them? Who are they becoming? Where are they heading? And more importantly, not just how we work or where we work, but like, why do we work? Why
Yes.
does it matter? So before we dive into like personal branding and avatar creation and online space domination, which you are a ninja in all three of those, what about someone who's listening who doesn't even know where to start when it comes to plugging into their intuition and understanding or even figuring out like what are my goals? Like I don't even know where to begin with that. Besides, I want to make $1 million and fly off into sunset. So besides money, how do you start to get focused on your goals? How do you coach your teams to begin to get super crystal clear on the direction they want to go?
Yeah, that's a $1 million question right there, Erin. And you're right. I mean, with everything going on, I think it's the most beautiful thing that's come of it is we're all kind of going, okay, like what do we really want to get out of this life? And what does the
Yeah.
quality of life look like? And there's wonderful things that can come from this like disruption we've experienced. And when it comes to, should we move? Should I take that job? Should I start the business? What I like to have people do is just, even if you just can go a year out, because if you try to go too far, it can be too elusive for people. Just imagine, yourself in a year from now. Get quiet. I like to journal things and write them out, but you can just close your eyes and, sit there with a candle or have some music going. But imagine what it would be like a year from now, and whatever that those things are that you're toying with. Imagine if you did have that baby and, you come home and you've got the baby and you have your family. Like, what does that feel like to you? Does it feel good? Does it feel great? Or is it like, like, I don't know about this baby. It could be, if you could do anything, and this is the key when we're dreaming like that, we have to give ourselves permission to go there, because so many of us are so
Mhm.
afraid to even dream or have the goal. We're afraid, if I do that, I mean, I literally have students who won't give me 5 goals. I'm like, this is your
Mm.
first step, 5 goals. They're like, I'm like, wait, what?
Wow.
Like, how are we
Yeah.
going to accomplish anything? So whatever it is that you're toying with is, I really believe that we get nudges from God, the universe, whatever you believe in. Those little nudges, those little whispers, they're very quiet at first because you've been probably ignoring them, or maybe you just don't feel confident in yourself and who you are. But when you start to get the nudges and you listen and you're obedient and you trust, then suddenly, like, people always are like, what's your business plan? We're scaling the company. I'm
Yeah.
like, I literally go by my gut. And they're like, that doesn't,
Mm.
what do you mean? I'm like, no, for real. Like, I couldn't tell you how we're going to get there, but I take that next step and that next step. So I'd encourage you, is you do have ideas and little nudges divinely, listen to them and trust them, and don't brush them off to the side. They're there for a reason. And that
Yeah.
brushing off to the side is often when we're living out of fear instead of faith. So I'd encourage you to take the step
Mm.
of faith and do it anyway.
Love that. Preach it, Kimberly. I love it so much. I think it's interesting because so the advice, it takes guts to go with your gut. It can be challenging to tune in to that individual intuition. I love that you are making sure that where we're exploring in that dreamland is not the ultimate end goal. We've solved it all, level 14. You're like, let's just talk about a year. Let's just
Right.
chunk this out, right? And I think, what I've noticed with my clients, my girlfriends, myself, is that I think because life became so ordinary, it's almost like we forgot that we desire an extraordinary existence. Like, because things
Absolutely.
got so small and routine, you know? And I think that a lot of us just shifted into this survival mode where it's like, it's really hard to survive and dream at the same time, right? Like dreaming
Eh,
almost feels like luxurious, you know?
yes.
So now that hopefully we're finding space and we're finding those moments where we can sort of remind ourselves like, wait, who I had to become to just get through those rocky periods doesn't have to be the person that I stay. Like I can become a new version. I can maybe take some of the aspects of that girl from before the pandemic and bring her through with me, but you know who I want to be on the other side. And I think it's a really nice segue into your specialty, which you are phenomenal at personal branding. I mean, from your
Thank you.
YouTube videos to your lives to the look and feel of the aesthetic, like it's very consistent and calming. And it kind of, I mean, I think it really matches who you are. I mean, you
Oh,
show up,
thank you.
you feel like your brand, which I love that because I that's not always the case. You know, we've met
Right.
people where you meet your heroes in real life and you're like, gosh, that is not who I thought you were going to be from
Totally.
your
Yeah.
Instagram, right? Um, so let's talk about personal branding. So what does personal branding mean to you? And if there's a highlighter who's listening who's like, personal branding, I'm just lucky that I even post on my social media.
Right.
Like, how could I
Once a
even like
day.
get myself together to figure this out? So what does it mean to you? And what is the first step to getting clear on figuring out what that is for us?
Oh, such is so good. I love this. And I think there is this, it's built up to have a brand because we think of Nike and Lululemon, but personal branding is yourself. It means personally branding you because a lot of times people will come onto social and they'll be attached to a network marketing company, or even if you had a jewelry line, you build everything around the jewelry. But what happens if you want to pivot? What happens if that company goes out of business? What
Yeah.
happens if you are on a platform and 99% of people are on their cell phones, especially like an Instagram, obviously, or something like that. Mine is like 80 some percent on Facebook. Everyone's on mobile. It's that little tiny circle to your face. You go
Mhm.
live, it's you. You do a reel, it's you. So personal branding is building up your know, like, and trust. So people are following you, they buy from you, they want to do business with you. And that way you pivot, you do something else, you have your brand. No one can take that away from you. And as
Yeah.
far as like how to get started with it, because we literally have to untrain people to stop trying to sell and serve instead. And you will sell by serving. And they're like, well, then how do I serve? I love to say, do the exercise. Imagine I told you tomorrow you're going to be on stage for 3 hours. Your avatar is in the audience, meaning your avatar is all the people that you'd want to hang out with. So for me, I love walking alongside female entrepreneurs that are starting that business on social.
Yeah.
They're all in the audience. What would you teach your ideal avatar what you love for 3 hours and you're not getting paid for it? Money's taken care of. You've got money in the bank. You're taken care of, but you just get to show up for 3 hours and serve, pour into that audience for 3 hours because you love it. You could talk about it all day long. What would it be? And a lot of times
Mm.
it's not. It's, my lashes or my makeup. It's like, no, no, no. For 3 hours, you're not going to talk about lashes. You're going to talk about hopes and dreams. You're going to talk about time management. You're going to talk about getting out of debt. You're going to talk about changing the world, like building, wells in Africa. Like you're going to be talking about some real stuff. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
And when we get away from product and selling things and we start shifting into getting aligned with our true gifts,
Mhm.
you have your plan right there. Boom.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that so much. I love that you removed the fiscal factor. Like if money's no, I mean, I love questions where it's like, if money's no object, go. I mean,
Ooh,
because
yes.
there's so much that we frame that we don't even know it's running in the background in our
Hmm.
subconscious and informing so many of our actions. But where energy goes, the money flows, the abundance will follow. But so I love that you removed that as a barrier and then to really surface the passion. So for those of you listening, highlighters, like what is that for you? I mean, if let's take Kimberly's challenge, if you had to talk for 3 hours, 30 minutes, you had to get on stage and what could you talk about and know that the people in that room would walk away better having
Oh,
shared that time with you? Like, I love that exercise. I think it's so strong. And we should do it in Nashville, by the way.
yes, we should.
I love it. I love it. Okay, okay, personal branding. So one thing that I work with a lot of network marketing companies as well. And for those of you that are entrepreneurs, small business owners, if you think it's hard to stand out as a small business owner, as an entrepreneur, if you think it's difficult to be heard on social media, try being in network marketing because it's even more crowded, it's even louder. So we're going to use these examples because that's Kimberly's expertise. She is the ninja in this space. But know that if it works for what she's talking about, it's only going to work that much better if you're a small business owner
Totally.
or a corporate gal, because it's even easier in the space that you're playing in because it's so saturated and competitive and tricky. So let's talk about the kind of the mistake that people make when it comes to personal branding. I'm going to surface the one that I think, and I want to hear what your opinion is.
Okay.
So I think that one of the biggest mistakes people make when it comes to personal branding is they don't want to roll up the sleeves and do the work that you've outlined. They don't want to open the closet and look at the backstory, like you so bravely mentioned, addiction struggles and depression. And, I talk about on a live that we had, I mentioned some very
Yes.
personal things. Like, it's really hard to be like, okay, I've seen some shit. Okay. And this is not therapy. It's not catharsis, but I learned something on the other side. And that's why I want to share with you my success scar from that failure wound. Right. So for people who aren't feeling empowered enough, or they're in a season where they're just not ready to do that, what I see people do is they will start to parrot other people's personal brands that they like, and they'll just sort of be a subpar
Mhm.
second version of someone else because it's not really them. I think that is a huge mistake, but I can understand why people do it because if you're lost, you look around, you're like, well, she looks like she has it together. Like, let's start with that, right?
Right.
I think that's a big mistake. What do you think are some of the mistakes that people will make when it comes to personal branding and where they kind of go wrong and then they get stuck and they get discouraged and then the whole thing loses momentum?
Totally. Well, I think, you have to understand when it comes to personal branding, you don't have to be an expert. You don't have to wait until you've gotten a certification in it. I mean, that's great and that helps you, but all you have to do is be one step ahead of your audience. So if you're at a space where, let's just say, you're learning about getting out of debt, and you've just owned it, like you and your husband locked arms and you're like, let's go, and you dug your way out of it, but you learned some stuff in the process. You might not even be out of debt yet. If you started going live or you started sharing tips around that and just said, hey, we decided to do this, the first step, we're building an emergency fund, you can tell people, I'm not a financial expert, we're not out of debt yet, but we just
Yeah.
did this last week and it rocked. You
Yeah.
want to believe an overnight freaking brand is right there. A normal person who's just like, hey, this is working for us. And that's how I started. I mean, I'm sure you have similar stories where you were just like, this is what I'm doing and it's working. Hey, you want to come learn it? You want to hire me? And so, huge mistake is that people wait until they think that they are good enough, or they're comparing to others on social, like you said, that they're like, oh, I'm not that person, I'm not ready yet. Just start where you are and share the struggle to success. You just got to be a little bit ahead of them. And what happens is that's so relatable to people. It's not
Yeah.
relatable to be way up here. I mean, it's relatable to be just right next to that person. I think that's a huge mistake.
I agree. Well said. Struggle to success. I mean, that's the way to
Mhm.
that's a hashtag right there. I mean, that's so good. And so I mean, I think that so let's talk about when people, a big piece of advice from social media experts, which you and I have heard them all, right? Let's talk about the classic piece of advice where they're like, just be yourself, be who you are, just show up authentically. I think we can all agree there is a line there, right? Like, some people are overshares, some people
Mhm.
you're like, that was a choice, right? I mean, like, sometimes you see people being authentic and
Right.
it can do more harm than good. So it's sort of this messy intersection of be authentically you, but I always say, but also be like first date, best foot forward you. Um,
Mm.
but so, like, how do you coach your teams when they feel like they're like, should I share? Like, how vulnerable is too vulnerable?
Right,
Like,
right, right.
because I want to have this beautiful aesthetic profile, but I also don't want to have this. There's like perfection fatigue because everyone knows it's like this, not real highlight reel. So, how do you coach finding that cadence of showing up as who you are, but not too much, but enough? You know what I mean?
Right,
Like, how do you walk
totally.
that line?
Yeah, so you hit on it earlier, is you always wanna leave people better off than when you found them.
Yeah.
So if they're scrolling on social and they pull up your reel or TikTok, I mean, you can tell a whole story in 10 seconds now, or read your Instagram post. What emotions are you evoking, and how are they feeling at the end of that post or that live or that story? So let's just say you are sharing how you used to go through, you had addictive behavior, but you had these destructive cycles where you would wake up every day and you were already failing before you started because your self talk was so negative. You don't stop there. That's what people do. They're like, yeah, and it sucked. It's like, no, 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 that doesn't make anybody feel good. But if you said, you know what, though, one day I looked in the mirror, I said, you're a freaking badass and you
Yeah.
can do this. Pull up your big girl panties. Let's go. We have goals to crush, people's lives to change. And I got up and did it. Who's with me?
Mhm.
That someone's going to be like, yeah, she's right. And what happens is they start to see themselves in the story. And, we've got to be able to resonate and not isolate. So when you're sharing,
Mm.
let's pull them into the story, not have them be over here and you over here. Let's bring them together. So always share that silver lining, even if it's baby steps. And I mean, as far as like, just don't share. I do think you need to be a little bit like Switzerland, a little bit on certain topics. Now you have a choice. That might be your platform. If your platform's like, yeah, I stand for justice, or you've got something political, that could be your platform. But if you are like, no, I'm here using social to build my business. I want to, pour into people. I want to be this light of inspiration. There's, you can kind of go and make a decision on
Yeah.
how Switzerland you want to be. But I've gone live on my personal profile and said, this is my personal profile. I'm on here, not my business page. I'm here because I want to share something on my heart. So there's a time and a place and a way to do it. But are you evoking emotion in people for positive change? Are you inspiring? And you can't go wrong with that.
I love that. So are you an advocate of personal and business pages being church and state separated?
So I will definitely share personal stuff on my personal profile, but probably my most engaged spot on social, well, outside of my business page lives, is my personal profile actually. So no, I have business in there, I have personal in there, but if it's something like I really want to just say it once in a while, I call it a PSA. Throw
Yeah.
a PSA in there once in a while so people see, like, have you heard the quote, like, if you don't stand for anything, no one will stand for you. You got to
Yes.
stand for something. Okay. You've
Yeah.
got to have things you stand for. Don't be afraid of making people upset or them not agreeing with you. But it's also like, we want to be kind and all of that. But yeah, I think if you're not sure, just ask yourself, how can I do this in a way that's going to inspire somebody? How can I
Yeah.
share without going there? But yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes you got to go there. I do.
Well, amen. I agree. And I think there's no perfect form. I think you said it so eloquently. I mean, there's no perfect formula to it, but
Mm-mm.
I do love a good test and learn. I mean, I do love a good look. I would
Yes.
be lying if I told you I have not deleted content that I have posted, right?
That's
Like,
so funny.
right? I mean, I think
Right.
we can all admit that we've been like, okay,
Yeah.
not my best work. All right, that's fine. But we don't know till we try, right? I
Right.
mean, I think that
Totally.
that's sort of the beauty of it is it's like, look, nobody has this perfectly figured out. It's your space to be who you want. But what I love that you're encouraging our highlighters to think through is like, what do you want to stand for? How do you want someone to describe you? Like one way that because I feel like I'm very much like a multi-passionate, multi-hyphenate, one of those ones. Like I love how your brand is like it's like clean, it's clear, it's $1 million business, it's the gold digger. Like I love your story. You're even wearing the right colors. Like even your colors, like you're so good at consistent brand aesthetic, and I love that. And so I was having a hard time probably 5 or 6 years ago. I was trying to figure out like, I don't know, like I'm a surfer girl in California, but my pedigree is so corporate and Fortune 100s, but I'm a business owner, but I come from corporate, but I'm an entrepreneur. Like I just feel like a hot mess. I felt like I was everything to everyone, which of course, no, that you're nothing to no one.
Right.
And so I did this really interesting exercise that really helped me to kind of find my North Star with this a little bit. So I don't know if this will help anybody listening, but I just polled my girlfriends and I was like, when you think about me, which I know you don't often, but I'm asking you to do it right now. What are like the top 3 adjectives that come to mind? Like if someone was like, how would you describe Erin? Like what would you say? And so I just asked them to just text me. And of course there were like some jokes. They were like annoying and like, whatever. But there were some that were kind of funny because I saw there were like a couple of patterns. And the one word that I pulled like 25 gals, and the one word that everyone said was energy. They were all
Ooh.
like energy, like energetic. And it's funny because as a kid, I always was told that I was like too loud or too much, or I talk too fast and, be small, calm
Yep.
down, slow down. Like, and I'd be like, just listen faster. Right. But,
What's
but
your
it was,
problem?
yeah, but it was interesting because I feel like there's probably a lot of us where the thing that was maybe our Achilles heel or our albatross or that was weird or different that people didn't like about us that we heard over and over again. It's weird how as adults, that might be the thing that actually is your superpower that everyone around you actually loves. That if you could just know what it is, make peace with it, hug it, and then amplify it, that's maybe how you stand out. Like, I don't know if that resonates for you at all or
Yes.
how you figured out what your
I
brand was
freaking
like,
love that, and I
you know?
haven't heard anyone say that, and just the way you said it, and there's this part of us, and I really see this a lot with the women that I work with, that we don't feel good enough and we don't feel like we have value to offer. We're just like, well,
Yeah.
it's already been done.
Yeah.
But, all those things that you went through as a kid, like you said, I mean, I was called weird, always weird.
Mhm.
I was different. Like you said, all the things, talk too fast, too much energy, just too excited, most optimistic, Pollyanna. Oh, you're such a
Mm.
Pollyanna. Like, it was bad. Now I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm glad I was a freaking Pollyanna. But like,
Hell yeah.
right? I mean, who wants to hang out with a Debbie Downer? So sorry if your name is Debbie, but like all those things, yeah, all those things give you some clues to okay, the thing that's was resisted is probably the thing you need to lean into as an
Mm.
adult. And so find out what that is. Do you love to talk? Start a podcast, start going live.
Yeah.
If you're funny and you love to make people laugh, build your personal brand through Reels or TikTok. I mean, you can do all of it on social media. As you know, I'm a huge advocate of it. But
Mm.
I love that you can be whoever you want. This is another thing. If you've gone through some stuff where maybe everyone from high school knows you as like the loser kid, or you made some bad mistakes in your 20s. Lord knows I did. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I have
Yeah.
people from high school that are in my programs now. I'm like,
Oh, I
this is
love
so
that.
weird. But
Full circle.
right, it's full circle. But you know what? It's because I said, this is who I am. And I've worked on myself. I've reinvented myself. I'm self-made in all ways. I wasn't born this way. I had to work really hard to unlearn some things, but this is
Yeah.
who I am. And I want to teach you how to do the same thing. And when you're yourself is obviously going to change, but know that you are worthy and you are good and you have value to offer.
So well said, Kimberly. I love that so much. And I love that there are people from your high school that are like now following you. And
Awesome.
full circle, you're like, exactly. See, this is
Come on,
weird
man.
works. Okay. Pollyanna is the CEO, bitch.
Yes. Whoop, whoop. Totally.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about so when it comes to kind of owning your online space. So contenting is a lot of work.
Mhm.
And when I look even at like I have a team that does my contenting with me. I've worked in social media my whole career. I mean, I ran social media for 10 years for all these companies, only done my own brand for 5 years. And I will tell you right now, it is easier to be a coach than a player when
Oh,
it comes to
totally.
contenting, right?
Uh-huh.
I even look at your stuff and I'm like, how does she do all this? Like it's so much stuff, right? And so a couple questions. So number one, um, what would you say to someone who sees where you are and immediately discounts like there's no way I can be a content machine at that level, number one.
Mhm.
And then number two, I want to talk to you about what success looks like for you because there's sort of this digital hedonic treadmill of like constant contenting and more goals and more of the more and like how do we not burn out from that continual raising the bar, like how do we keep leveling up online or offline when it seems to be sort of kind of like the pandemic, like this endless race where we can't like see the finish line with the beer garden and with the friends and like have the laugh and be like good job us, we got a medal. So one thing at a time. But first thing is, what would you say to someone who sees all this amazing content and they're like there's just no way I could even compete, so I'm just not even gonna try?
Yeah, I mean, it happens all the time, or the stop, go. Usually people will go hard for about 6 weeks on a new goal. They're posting every day, going live, all the things. And then about week 6, they're like, where's my money? And then they
Mhm.
quit. But the breakthroughs typically happen between weeks 8 and 12. I see that. I used to do personal training and nutrition consulting, same thing. I'm not losing weight. And then they stick with it. It's like, boom, their body transforms. So
Yeah,
I would
it's so
say,
true.
yeah, I would say number one is be consistent and tell yourself, I'm going to keep going until I crack the code here, until
Mm,
I finally figure out what's the right rhythm for me. Where am I hanging out? What platforms? Try them on. You don't have to be married to any of them. See what you
yeah.
like best. You might like Clubhouse. You might love having a Facebook group. That's been my jam for years. So, what I would say is one platform at a time and one strategy at a time on that platform. So, don't
Mhm.
try to post every day, do your stories, go live, have a Facebook group, just start posting every day on your wall. And then like, okay, I'm starting to get some friends. I'm getting this engagement thing down. Okay, cool. Let's start a group. One thing
Mm,
at a time, build off of it, and then get a VA.
love
So as
that.
soon as it's up and running and you've crafted it, you're like, this is me, this is my voice, this is what this looks like, get a VA. So we actually we repurpose a ton of content. So it looks like we're
Smart.
everywhere, but we're actually not. I mean, we are,
Smart.
but I'm not doing it all.
So smart. I love that. So what about success? Like how do
Yeah.
we because with goal setting, it can be this endless. I mean, goal setting can sort of be its own addiction in a way. I mean,
Mhm.
where we
Yeah.
are constantly chasing it down. And I mean, I know I shared with you a little bit the other day that like 2021 was the most profitable year for my business and the saddest, darkest year. So I found that
Mhm.
there wasn't this immediate feeling of success with the actual success. It wasn't what it was going to
Yeah.
feel like. And so I told you I did this whole reinvention for this year, and now I'm finally feeling the joy and feeling successful, but it took a reframe. So how do you sustain momentum? Like, do you set certain endpoints with your goals? Like, how can we make sure that we're chasing down goals, but then also being present and like celebrating the accomplishments and not just being on this endless more of the more, which can be how kind of we get stuck or we get burnt out?
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And I'm more driven to the or prone to the addiction of the goal setting. I'm a goal digger girl, but I'm also achievement oriented, as I mentioned. And I when I was a child, I got recognized when I did something really well. So I made that correlation, right? And
Yeah.
it's something that, we're all wired differently. So if you're that way and you're like, okay, I feel like it never ends. When you are setting a goal, you do want to have some parameters around it, when it's going to be and things like that. But when you do accomplish that goal, you need to celebrate it.
Yeah.
And that is very hard for us to do, especially women. I feel like we're just kind of like, oh, okay, what's next? We need to celebrate it. The other thing is Tony Robbins has the wheel of life. I think he's the one that created it. Once in a while, take a piece of paper, and I learned this from Jen Sincero. Take a piece of paper. On the left side, write down everything that brings you joy. On the right side, everything that doesn't. Do more of what's on the left side. So if it's just playing with your kids or going on a date with your husband, going on a vacation, calling a friend, do more of that and make sure that your cup is really full. Not you're just doing things and you're amazing, accomplishing all these things. Like, is your life joyful? You only get one life, right? So yeah, definitely like make sure that you're taking time and not burning out and you're sleeping and all the things that we know to do.
Yeah, it's so good. And I love that exercise. It's so doable. And if highlighters, if you're noticing, Kimberly has a theme here. She writes the list, she writes things down, she writes the journal, she writes the vision. Like, pen to paper has such power.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And just because we know it, something happens when we take the time to show up on paper. I love that you keep encouraging people, and your book, Boss It Up Babe, has some amazing frameworks for making sure that you're walking through these exercises, you're discovering your personal brand, you are owning your online space, and that you are able to attract your ideal avatar. So Kimberly, I just think you are fabulous.
I
I
think you are
can't
too.
believe everything that you do. You're incredible, and I cannot wait to see you live in Nashville.
So
Where
excited.
can my highlighters get more of you? I know you're everywhere, but like, where's your preferred place that they should
Yeah,
come?
for sure. Depending on how you digest content, main platforms, business page, Facebook, The Gold Digger Girl is GOAL, or Instagram. I'm on every platform. Those are my two main ones. I'd love for you to take a screenshot of you watching this, listening to this, tag myself and Erin. I'd love to give you a shout out.
Love it. Kimberly, thank you so much. And I cannot wait to see you live in Nashville in a couple of
Thank
months. I appreciate
you.
you. Thank you so
Appreciate you
much.
too. All right. Bye.
Bye.